Guys, I need to show you some things. It's evidence that a lot of the theories going around about this latest virus, and don't really want to mention the name right now, but you know what I'm talking about. It's on the screen. It's evidence that there's a lot more to this than we're being told, and I think I've partially decoded what's going on, and it's not good. There's a lot of indicators going on here that this is actually gene therapy for something, and I'm about to show you what. But let's go over the pieces of evidence one by one, and I'll take you through this. You can decide for yourself. 6 weeks before the first documented case in Wuhan, this happened, and this is a video by a guy named Spiro Skouras. Really like the guy. Seems like he's a good journalist. I'll let him tell you what's going on here.
Hi everyone, I'm Spiro, and what you just witnessed were highlights from Event 201, which took place in New York City on October 18th, 2019. Event 201 is a high-level pandemic exercise hosted by the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security in partnership with the World Economic Forum and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Now, in this report, I will play several clips from Event 201, but I will provide the links below so you can see the pandemic exercise in its entirety, which is nearly 5 hours if you wish to do so. I personally watched every second of it. Now, I believe that this report is directly connected to my recent report on global institutions and governments which are currently pimping the United Nations Climate Agenda program, which seeks to consolidate political and economic power into the hands of the ruling elite. That report is titled The UN and Central Banks, a Rockefeller and Rothschild Coup. And the follow-up to that report, exposing how George Soros is actively bankrolling campaigns to censor content creators on YouTube, which question the legitimacy of man-made climate change, which in my view, based on my research, is nothing more than a false pretext for global regulations, global taxations, consolidation of power and natural resources, in addition to population control and global governance. Now back to Event 201. I find this extremely fascinating because this pandemic simulation exercise of the coronavirus took place about 6 weeks before the first illness from the coronavirus was actually reported in Wuhan, China. Now, that is one hell of a coincidence if you ask me. I'm not sure if you believe in that sort of thing. I have a hard time believing in coincidences. Another fascinating connection is the fact that not only did Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation participate in and help set up the pandemic simulation of the coronavirus outbreak, they also just so happen to fund the very group who owns the patent to the deadly coronavirus and are already working on a vaccine to solve the current crisis. Again, an incredible coincidence, I know. Now, the members of the emergency...
All right. Exhibit 1. Let's continue. I know maybe some of you have taken biology classes, but I know a lot of you may not have gotten into this part. Let's just go over how this works.
Neuron, or SMN. In genetic disorders like type 1 spinal muscular atrophy, cells cannot produce enough healthy functioning SMN because they have a defective gene. In one of our clinical trials, researchers are using gene therapy to deliver the healthy SMN1 gene to a patient's cells. Researchers take viruses and modify them in a lab so they only contain the SMN1 gene and do not cause harm to the patient.
They take viruses,
These viruses are
put genetic
loaded
code
with the
in them,
healthy SMN1 gene and injected into the
because
body.
the viruses inject the code
When the
into your
material
cells.
is injected, the viruses deliver the healthy SMN1 gene to the cells all over the body. Most importantly, they cross the blood-brain barrier to the motor neuron cells in the spinal cord. Once the virus has delivered the SMN1 gene to the cell, the virus disintegrates.
Now, check this out. What does this say? Knowledge of coronavirus replication, transcription, and virus host interaction has been recently improved by engineering of coronavirus infections cDNAs. with a transmissible gastroenteritis virus. Genome, the efficient and stable expression of the foreign genes has been shown. Goes on at the bottom to say, basically, in short, that the large cloning capacity of coronaviruses has increased the potential of coronaviruses as vectors for vaccine development and possibly gene therapy. Okay, so here's the documentation on this. Now, scroll over. What the hell is optogenetics? Well, this is a field of technology that has been advancing behind the scenes, funded by all big people you've probably already heard of. One of them being this guy, linked to Jeffrey Epstein. Optogenetics is the practice of inserting basically genetic code from algae, which responds to light, into living tissue, living cells, typically neurons, it says, so that they are modified to now respond to light. So they insert this into your gene, and once they do so, it starts replicating. There is a YouTube channel that I would love to direct you to. Another amazing researcher and journalist, does great work. This video right here, called "They Hate Us," goes into detail about the development of optogenetics, some of the players involved, and how they seem to be like everyone else in the occult, connected to everyone else in the occult. A lot of people who you hear about every day. Um, okay, so to anybody who is still saying, "Oh well, this can't be," the symptoms are just not congruent with they're congruent with the symptoms of a flu-like pathogen, and not what I'm talking about. Well, check this out. This is the first documented case of gene therapy going wrong. And as you can see here, the official cause as listed on the death certificate filed by Raper, I'm assuming that was the coroner, was adult respiratory distress syndrome. His lungs shut down. So, what supposedly is happening to people over in China right now? Just pointing that out. And so, to people who point out that they're finding uh, parts of genetic code for HIV and stuff like that, well, it makes sense because in order to do gene therapy, you're introducing a deadly pathogen. Well, I'm sorry, not a deadly pathogen, but a pathogen into the body. And you need to suppress the immune system to do that, because otherwise the body's just going to fight it off and not let it do its intended purpose. Further evidence to support my conclusion comes from an esoteric film created back in 2012. The backstory on this film you can get from J.K. Bugout's channel, very astute researcher as well. But one scene in particular I would really like to direct you to. Well, there's actually a couple, but here is one. This guy right here. I don't know if you can see this, but on this guy's cape, first of all, he's got a mask on, one of several masks that he wears, but this one in particular is a plague doctor from back during the bubonic plague. Sure, some of you recognize this. It is still used in iconic films and games and whatnot. But that's this. That's a plague mask. On his cape, I don't know if you can see this, but it's got the number 23. Um, a lot of people have theories on what 23 means in the occult, but I believe it refers to the amount of human chromosome pairs within a cell, because that is the exact number of human chromosome pairs within a cell. I think I'm gonna have to slow this down. Oh, wrong thing. Saw it. All right. So it's a plague doctor wearing the number 23, as in 23 chromosome pairs. I don't know about you, but to me, that's it's not completely conclusive evidence, but it's getting there. So, shalom.